Hey guys, it's Lenny from SimonSaysResell. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm super excited. This is going to be the first video of a series of videos that I'll be creating, mainly on how to sell on Amazon. I first started off back in November 11th of 2016, which is a little over a month ago, and now it's what is it? It's January 22nd, so still fairly new at this. I'm not an experienced Amazon seller by any means, or at least haven't been doing this over a few months, just started, which I'm okay with because I think I'm doing pretty well so far. I want to give a few, shout outs to a few people that are pretty big FBA sellers or Amazon sellers. Raking profits, watched a bunch of your videos, love you, thanks so much for all the information. Reezy Resell, same thing, very, very informative videos, love the videos, keep hustling, that whole thing. So definitely, if you haven't watched those videos, go ahead and watch them. Very informative. I'm kind of following the same path as kind of what they did in a way, but just giving you my spin on it. I have, everyone has their own business model, their own methods of madness. So I'm just going to be creating these series of videos to show you and give you some guidance on how I sell on Amazon. Mainly books. About over 90% of my inventory is books right now. Books are easier to kind of manage overall. Easy to ship. Very few returns because there's no moving parts, things like that. So it's not a bad, item to start with if you're trying to sell on Amazon. Yes, you can sell toys. I've sold a few toys, but still getting into that as well. Yes, you can, get into other things, electronics, but those are a little harder in some ways. Things do break. What source are you getting them from? Are they reliable? So there's a lot more risk, I think, there. But if you're just starting off like I am, books are a pretty good way to go. I can't stress that more right now. But a little intro about me. My name is Lenny. I live in Miami, Florida. I'm married. I have two beautiful little girls. One's 4 and one's 7. We have another baby on the way. My wife is 30 weeks. Yeah, about 30 weeks pregnant right now. We're expecting another girl, so I'm in trouble. And we have a dog who's a girl, a little mix of a Chihuahua miniature pincher. And then we have 2 cats that are girls, so I am the only male in the house, so it's going to be interesting the next few years. But super excited. Both girls are great. My wife is very supportive on what I'm doing, so I really thank her for that, and my family as well. This isn't my full-time job. My primary job is a senior network security engineer. So IT, computers. Been doing computers and IT for almost 18 years now and loving every second of it. I work full-time for a consulting company, so I have customers I go to all over South Florida, and architect, design, implement, troubleshoot, monitor, everything security, firewalls, data loss prevention, stuff like that. If you know what I'm talking about, then hopefully you're nodding your head. But if not, don't worry about it. I do computer stuff, and I love it. If you have any computer questions, anything about security especially, let me know. I'll do my best to help you out. But that's a little bit about me. Let's see what else. As far as my background, a little more, I was born in Brazil. I grew up in New Jersey, actually. I was adopted at birth in Brazil and moved to Jersey when I was about a year old. And lived in Jersey for maybe 10 to 12 years and then moved down to Florida. And I've been in Florida ever since. I'm almost 35 years old. So, yeah, so that's kind of like my background story really quick. As far as my education, I have my master's degree in management information systems with a concentration in security. And about 2 dozen or more IT certifications, mostly security certifications. So what's cool about this is, just doing the Amazon selling is there's, a lot of, business involved. There's a lot of customer service involved, just building your business model. But there's also, internet marketing involved and a lot of SEO, search engine optimization, with different marketing that you do. So I'll be getting into that as well. But having the IT background, I think that helps. Having an SEO or internet or social media background helps. So if you don't have it, don't worry about it. It's just a bonus if you do. But watching videos like mine and Reezy Resales and Raking Profits and Homemade Entrepreneur, all those videos are on YouTube specifically for selling on Amazon. Watch them, because the job that I have as a security engineer, yes, technical skills are a must, but there's also a lot of research, and I think that helps me, learn new things. If you ask me, if I even thought that I'd be doing this on Amazon, back in October of last year, I wouldn't have, I had no idea what you were talking about. But I did a lot of research, watched a lot of these videos, and it's just helped tremendously. And I really want to share, I really want to give back to the internet and the community, and whoever else is interested. I guess the main reason why I'm doing this, is to make a little passive income. And you might ask, why am I doing this, Lenny? Well, to make some extra money. Money's good. There's money to be made everywhere, and this is definitely one of the places to do that. I'm not making millions of dollars, but I'm building up to sort of a steady income where it could pay for my mortgage. It could pay for a car payment. It depends how far you take it. If you really focus in a lot of this stuff and you just do a lot of research, you really can make some good money. It depends on how much time you have, depend the resources, depend how much of budget you have. So there's a lot of little factors involved, but you will make money, and I am making money. And if you watched my pre-intro video, so the video I made first was a pre-intro to this. So if you watch that video, I actually show you some stats that I have made, or stats that I have collected over time in the last 2 months or so since I started, to show you how many sales I made, to show you how many books I sold. And what I did, which is interesting, and definitely check it out because it's pretty cool. For those who aren't familiar with Amazon, there's 2 ways to basically fulfill orders. There's merchant fulfillment and there's Amazon fulfillment. So merchant fulfillment means if you have a book, at home, like a book like this, you have a book at home and you want to sell it because either you got it at a garage sale, you got it at a thrift store or something like that. You can either scan it into Amazon, and as a merchant, you hold the inventory at your house or a warehouse or somewhere else, but not at Amazon. And once you list the product, the book, for example, you wait till it sells. Once it does sell, you then have about 24 hours to get the book. So pick the book, pack it in your own packaging, whether you get envelope or a box or whatever, and then ship it. So physically go to the store, UPS store, USPS store, however you ship it, and send it off. And then if there's an issue with it, like maybe a customer service issue, the customer contacts you directly. Now, I started off merchant fulfillment. I signed up my Amazon seller account, which is an account that you sign up when you want to sell items on Amazon, and I'll get to that later. But you sign up an account. I signed up on the 11th of November of 2016. I started selling merchant that day, and I pretty much sold from the 11th of November to December 8th, so a little less than a month, and I'll tell you why. But within that month, I sold almost 50 books. And I don't remember how much my sales were, but they were over $1,000. And that's pretty good for me just starting off. Now, that's a good thing to say and good thing to mention to you guys, but the real question is, how much money did I make? How much net profit do I take back with me after making those, over $1,000 in sales? I wasn't really worried about making the money. I was more worried about trying it and see if I can do this on Amazon. When I realized I can do this, that's when I kind of opened the doors up a bit more. I started going to garage sales, I started going to thrift stores, and I started, buying books for $1 or $2 a piece or so, and then, selling them for 10, 12, 15 or more on Amazon, merchant fulfilled. And then I started seeing the net profits come in after shipping, after all my packaging, everything like that. Ooh, it was, on average, I was making, $10, $12 net a book. So I was starting to see the trend there. I was starting to get used to it. I was starting to really understand how this whole thing works. So I was excited. I was super excited. And then I came to realize, I was going to the postal store every day. I would be at work, doing my network engineering thing at work, and I would watch my phone and see the emails come in. Oh, we got an order. Oh, awesome. I was so excited. And at the end of the day, I was getting like 8 orders a day at one point. And I'm like, this is awesome. But when I get home after a long day of work, I have to fulfill those orders myself, which is awesome, but it's also not something I really wanted to spend all my time doing. So I had my Amazon merchant account, or I was selling via merchant for about less than a month. And then what I noticed, I had about 300 books, I think, on my store via merchant, selling fulfillment by merchant. And it was going awesome. But I realized that I did some more research, and I was watching some of the FBA sales that were being made, or at least some research about it. And I noticed that I could make more money doing FBA. So making $10 via merchant, I could make 12, 13, 14, 15 or more on the same book. So I was like, what should I do here? Should I just leave my 300 books and just keep going merchant? Or should I switch over to fulfillment by Amazon? So what I did on the 8th of December is I took all of my inventory offline, took all 300 books, just inactive, done. So no one can buy any more books from me. It was a hard decision to make, but I'm super glad I made it. Guys, if you're doing it merchant and you're thinking about going Amazon FBA, do it. I'll make a video separately on kind of the differences and kind of my experience, but you're going to hear this a lot from people. Go Amazon FBA. You can sell your items for more money, which means potentially more net profit, depending on how much you bought the item for, though. You don't have to deal with customer service when you go FBA. If there's an issue with the book or return or some issue in shipping, you don't hear a peep about it. You get an email letting you know that something's happening or there's a refund or something, but you don't have to deal with it. Amazon deals with everything, so that's awesome. You don't have to deal with shipping at all. So when a book sells, okay, cool, and that's it. You don't have to stop what you're doing, go package everything. It's so much easier. So what I mentioned in my pre-introduction video, I showed you a graph, which is pretty cool. One side is my merchant sales, and then the other side is my Amazon sales. And there's a little gap in the middle where there's nothing, flatlined, because that's me turning everything off. Now, another little hint is I started my account on the 11th of November, and if you were a new seller like I am, or I am now and I was before, if you're a new seller, you can't send any FBA shipments in until a certain date because I'm a new seller and because of the holidays primarily. So since it was December 8th or so at the time, I tried to start a shipment in Amazon FBA, but I got a little rejection message saying if you haven't shipped anything in by October 16th or whatever the date was in October, you have to wait until December 19th to send your first shipment in. So I was like, oh man. But I was okay. So from December 8th to the 19th, I didn't do any sales because I took everything off of Amazon. I didn't ship anything in because I couldn't. What I did do to kind of progress here and kind of use my time efficiently is I did more research. I did research on what apps, what tools, what equipment, what supplies I need to sell on FBA, like a scale, an item to take off the stickers from books, some packing material. So I'll go another video on that as well. So I learned all that from that, and it was great. And once I took that time off to kind of prepare and do research, I went ahead and looked for some books. I had time off. I wasn't selling anything. I had some time to do things. So I went to garage sales, went to yard sales. I wanted to mention this because I learned from, it was kind of a mistake. I got so excited about this, all these books I'm going to sell. I'm doing so well on merchant. I'm going to do better on FBA. So, I was going to yard sales, going to garage sales, going to Goodwill. Goodwill is a great place to go as well. But I wanted more books. So I looked on Craigslist and I found this guy that was selling a pallet of books, or actually 15 pallets of books for about $200 a pallet. Now, if you're not sure what a pallet is, they also call them gaylords. They're these huge cardboard boxes, maybe 4 to 5 feet tall, I believe, pretty thick. They can hold a lot of weight, maybe a ton or so a piece of books. And that's pretty much what you get in a pallet of books, a ton of books. They can hold roughly about 800 to 1,200 books, depending on the size and the shape. So this guy had them on Craigslist. It was probably about 40 minutes north of me. I live in Miami. I went up there with my wife's car. She has a Pathfinder. We put the seats down, so there's a lot of room. I went up there to kind of first look at them, but also get the books if I can. So I went ahead and got there, and they had a pallet of books. The one thing about when you buy a pallet of books like that is you really don't know what you're getting, especially on the bottom of the pile. Because think of a pallet of books as just a very big box. You don't know what's at the bottom. You don't know what's in the middle because there's so many books on top. Unless you have time to sit there and sift through all of them, which you probably don't. Usually when these people are selling these books, these pallets, they just want you to get them and go. You don't really have time to sift through them. So I actually bought a pallet for $200 there when I had my wife's car, and I started loading my wife's car with books. And this thing was filled up to the top with books. And there was a point where obviously the car was, sinking and the tires were getting a little, bulging out. So I was like, I may have to come back. And I was only able to fill about half, was only able to fill the car up where the pallet was about halfway empty. So it still had a half of full of books in it. So what I did is I went back home, unloaded, came back the next day, got the rest of the books, went home. With $200 for the books plus how much it costs for gas, maybe $10 or so. So I spent $210 or whatever it was, plus my time. It took me about 45 minutes to do that first round, so maybe an hour and a half or so. So anyway, long story short is I got really excited. I got a bunch of books. I kind of got screwed over, I believe, in a way, because there were a lot of calendars. Not just calendars, but 2016 calendars. And it's December 2016. So the year is almost over. So who the hell is going to buy a 2016 calendar when the year is almost over in a few weeks? So I talked to the guy about that. He said, there is a market for it, which I see that there is a very small market. Some people buy the calendars for pictures, like teachers buy them for their class. So I was like, whatever, it's my first time. So would I go back to that guy? No. I winded up with, I'll show you the calendars. I have them over behind me. I have maybe 400 calendars. I'll probably be throwing them a lot away, but I winded up getting about 800 books. I counted all the books, not including the calendars. So 800 books, 400 calendars. It is what it is. And I, since then, I got access to sending on Amazon FBA on the 19th. So when the 19th came around of December, I had boxes and boxes of books ready to go. Probably in 2 weeks, I probably sent 800 books, hundreds of pounds of books within 2 weeks after I got access to Amazon FBA, which is great. And some of those books are the books from this, pallet haul that I went to. But that's just me. I get excited about things. So, but I just want to explain to you guys that was kind of my journey, and I have a little more information to show you. I started off merchant, didn't do anything for about a week or two, and then went straight into FBA full swing. So I don't do any merchant anymore because I don't want to be at work or be out, and have to fulfill an order myself, unless there's a book that I really don't want to ship to Amazon. But lately, the books I'm getting I'm fine with. Amazon knows what they're doing. They do an awesome job. So I'm pretty happy where that is and how that's going. So that's kind of how I got started. Again, the other video I have shows you a graph in my sales and stuff between the two, merchant and Amazon fulfillment, which I think is pretty cool. Right now, since it's, January 22nd of 2017. I am a little over 2 months into this, about a month or so into Amazon FBA. I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of it. There is some work to do. I kind of have my own business model in place now, and I've changed my business model several times, so don't worry about that too much. It happens. As you're starting off, you don't really know. You're learning, so that's fine. I changed my business model in a way where I'm only looking for books under a sales rank of 2 million. And a sales rank, though, that's an interesting topic in of itself, and I'll be creating a video just for that. A sales rank is just like a snapshot in time of the book itself, on how often and how soon it's sold. So I kind of use that as a guideline, and again, I'll get into that later. There's other little variables that I have in place and other filters. But what I've done is, which I think a lot of you might be interested in, especially if you're the ones that are going looking for books every weekend or during the week. I don't do this full time. I said I have other jobs, and I'm doing that mostly. But I've hired as like independent contractors these random people in South Florida. I put an ad on Craigslist, and I can share with you the blurb that I used. I put an ad on Craigslist saying, hey, I have an online business. I'm looking to have some people help me look for books, and I'll pay you $2.50 a book based on the criteria of the app that I give you. So what I do is there's an app that I use, FBA Scan, which is a great app. I've used a couple of other ones too, like Profit Bandit and things like that, but I found the FBA Scan to be better for me for a few reasons, and I'll get into that in another video, but just to finish up the story. So I hire people to go out and go to Goodwill, go to thrift stores. Right now I have about a little over probably 7 people that are just scouting for me, looking for books for me in all different places. I have a bunch of books behind me. It's Sunday. Usually on the weekends, that's when I kind of fulfill my orders and prep them. I have books from 2 different scouters that are behind me, about 200 books in a week. So one guy got me 190 books, and this other college student, this girl, got me about 50 books or so. And then after I went all through them, I prepped them. It winded up being about 200 books, because there were some that I either need to work on still, because I try to look for the books that I can just kind of pack and go. During the week, I don't ship anything out. So my goal really is to do about at least 100 books a week. So far in the last 3 weeks, I've been doing at least 150 to 200 a week, so I'm pretty happy with that. So this week's shipment is going to be about 200 books or so. But yeah, so I have people sourcing for me. I have fun going to the Goodwills, don't get me wrong, and I do that myself too, but I find it to be more efficient with time. As far as the money I'm paying for the books, $2.50, to me it's a bit of a premium. Some people say I don't pay more than $1 a book, which is great, but this system's working out for me so far, because I'm buying them at a fairly, not that low, but a lower sales rank. The app that I use has conditions and filters in it that tell the person to buy or not the book when they go to a Goodwill. So it's very easy. The app does 90% of the work. They walk into a Goodwill, they scan the book, the app says yes or no. If it says yes, the sourcer has a little extra step to do, is more the visual part of it. Does this book look good? Does it have any water damage? Does it have any mold or mildew? But usually at Goodwill, they're pretty good at that, so they don't. So then once the visual inspection passes, they're done. There's no more they have to think about, and they move on to the next book. So I'll get into a video with you guys as far as what app I use and what the settings are and things like that. So that's kind of my story. That's where I am now for the most part. Where I want to be is I want to kind of just keep getting my books in there. I have about 1,300 books right now. I want to get to at least 2,500 so I can have a consistent sale or consistent number of sales every day. Right now, my average sales are 6 a day without even thinking. A couple times it went to 15. I'm selling maybe 40 to 45 books a week so far, and climbing because I keep sending more in. The more books you have, the more potential you have for sales. So it's good. So I'm very happy with that. I just have some notes over here, see what else I can mention to you guys. Yeah, so this is like the first video. It's more of an introduction on who I am, where I came from, where I am now, where I want to be. Oh, and the other thing I'm doing, just as a little hint here too, or a little extra tip, is yes, I'm selling books on Amazon, but that's really not my primary goal, my long-term primary goal, I guess you can say. I want to set up Amazon as far as the books go for passive income and to feed in to another business or project on Amazon that I'm doing. It's called private label. So what I'm doing is I'm building this store full of books to sell, and all that profit that comes in, I'm going to use that and sort of reinvest it into my private label business or side of business. Now, private label, if you don't know what it is, you're basically finding a product, doing a lot of research, finding a product that you can sell on Amazon, but you buy it straight from the manufacturer or through wholesale, and just sell it on Amazon. So I'm doing some research. I found maybe a half a dozen products that I'm researching right now, kind of involved in one main category, and all the products are made in China. And I've talked to them. I have emails going back and forth. I purchased some samples from them. I got them this past week, and I'm kind of still researching them with my wife as well. And yeah, so I want to basically start doing private label. So guess what? I'm watching videos on how to do that on YouTube as well. And once I get further along in that adventure, I'll make some videos for you guys as well. But right now, the series of videos you're going to be watching are mainly for selling on Amazon, but mainly selling books. I definitely sold some toys. Maybe soon I can show you guys a graph of kind of my numbers and everything, as far as what categories of items I've sold. But I sold maybe over 90% books, and the rest is toys. And I get the toys from Michael's Arts and Crafts shop. I had a lot of success around the holidays because things were just crazy cheap. And I walk into a Michael's and they had these kinetic sand toys 60% off. So I bought like 12 of them. Each was $8.99 a piece, and I sold them on Amazon for $24 a piece. So I ended up netting was $8 to $10 or so a piece. So hey, that's what you do. So I don't really focus so much on toys, but I do focus on books mainly. And I've learned a lot books. I have all these different tricks and stuff about getting stuff off of books, marker and smudges and things like that. But again, I'll do a video for you guys so you can see it. What other notes do I have here? Yeah, so I think one of the next videos I'll do is kind of the supplies you need. What apps you need, what services you need, what equipment you need to sell on Amazon merchant and or fulfilled by FBA. So I'll kind of get into that soon, but I first wanted to show you guys the shipment I'm sending out. So the first few boxes I'll show you, those are ones that I just did today, this morning. Those are from my scouters, my two scouters, some girl, some student, and some other good friend of mine. And this was just this week, and they've been consistently getting me books, at least 50 books a week a piece. So I don't really have to go out anymore, which is great. I can focus more on the private label and focus more on my business. But let me show you the books. Let me turn the phone around here real quick. So this first box here, you can see it says BW, I guess I or 12, whatever. Those are codes for Amazon's shipping centers. So I send these books to that location, and they get there and they go online. So BW, whatever, is Baltimore. So these books here are going to Baltimore. These books here, you can see the FTW, if you can see that. These books here are going to FTW. And you notice they're already labeled. So here's a label, if you can see that, for Amazon. So they already went through and labeled all of these really quick. So these are all my labels. And then these other books here, what's unfortunate, what happens is when you use software to send books to Amazon or items to Amazon, they kind of change the different shipping centers that you as the FBA seller will ship to. So the first box you saw for Baltimore, there's about, let's say 80 books in there that I'm going to Baltimore. The Fort Worth is maybe close to 100 as well. But then as I was scanning, it was saying, ship this book to somewhere else. So I was like, okay, it's fine. But unfortunately, you might get lucky. And when you're scanning all your books to ship out, you may only have one center to ship to, which is like the ultimate. This is kind of what I hope for every time. I have gotten lucky a few times, but not that much. But the good thing is, the majority of my books are going to one place. Then I have these stragglers here. I have one going to TPA, which I believe it looks like Tampa, but actually is Florida. Not Tampa, though. I think somewhere more central Florida. EWR, anything EWR is usually New Jersey, and then Oakland, I think, is in California. So these are codes specific for Amazon. So if you look at this, I have to send this one book to that one place, this one book to that one place, those two books to that one place, and then this one book to that one place. But then I send these, other books to all these other places here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 separate shipments to send out. The majority of them are going to be to Baltimore and Fort Worth, Texas. Now I wanted to show you something too. Remember I had mentioned in my other video, or maybe I haven't. I'm actually going to show you a quick little video of some books I got. So I got a hookup with some books at a local book sale, I guess you can say. They were selling books for $2 a box, and each box you can probably stick 15 or so books in it, maybe 12 to 15. So I'll show you really quick the end of the sale here. So this is what I was able to collect. Now, the unfortunate thing about this sale is mostly these books are fiction. And if you've sold books before on Amazon, or maybe you're thinking about selling books on Amazon, fiction books don't do as well as nonfiction, but there's still some potential. So I saw this as an opportunity to get books really cheap, even though they might be fiction, and see what I can do with them. So there's about 450 books. I went out yesterday and I got 450 books for about $60. So not too bad. Now the books that you saw on the floor here from my scouters, those are better books in a sense, because they are nonfiction and they're handpicked, via the app that they give them, and they actually are handpicked. The books over there that you saw on the wall, the fiction books, those are more along the lines of, I bought a box of books, I don't really know what's in them, so I get what I get. But ultimately, I haven't sifted through those yet. I got to go through those eventually. But what I'm doing first is I'm going to send out the shipment here, and during the week I'll go ahead and work on the other books. But so I want to wrap this up. It's kind of a longer video, but it's my introduction video, so you guys can get a little more about me and where I'm at. There'll be tons of videos on pricing, my business model. I'm looking at my notes here, so sorry if I'm looking away, but how to price books, how to look at the condition, the time spent, how to be more efficient in time, sourcing books, whether you go to Goodwill, thrift shops, hiring people, making sure you hire the right person, the apps you need, the supplies you need, things like that. So again, this is the first video of a series of videos on how to sell on Amazon by SimonSaysResell. And I thank you guys for watching. Please hit a thumbs up for a like, subscribe to my videos so you guys can get notified when I do come out with the videos, and comment. Ask any questions you want. I'm here to help. I'm super excited about this series, and I thank you for tuning in. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, and talk to you later.